Welcome back to SwitchCorner. My name is Alex and today we're going to be taking a look at Little Nightmares 2 on the Nintendo Switch. The original, it's a well-loved creepy puzzle platformer, but can this one do enough to, justify its existence, but also should fans be diving in immediately? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we will do here. Join our growing family and let's get started. So like the first entry, story here is slowly fed to the player with progression, and to avoid any spoilers or my interpretation of maybe let's say key moments, I'm going to be keeping this short and sweet. You'll play as Mono, a young boy. You've awoken in a nightmarish world that's being distorted by this weird transmission. It's coming from a tower. Now you must get to it to uncover its dark secrets. Your guide for this, 6 from the first installment, and yeah, I think they nailed the tone I was expecting after the first game, and I did like this new cast of foes. So gameplay, and if you played the first entry, this is very much the same, a predominantly puzzle platformer focused experience with the very occasional moment of stealth, combat and even action. Each level pretty much though relies on the same formula, that is head to location, face a puzzle, figure it out, push on forward. Where Little Nightmares 2 succeeds for me though, it's yes, the formula is repetitive, but it always still felt different. It always had a trick up its sleeve to distinguish one moment from the next. This could come in the form of different enemies that I had to sneak past, some intricate moments of platforming, or simply running as fast as my little legs would carry me. This is all helped then by a nice ramping difficulty, which means yes, I occasionally definitely got stuck, but it was never for too long and it never bordered on frustrating. Controls then, and it's all a simple enough movement, of course, with a 3D plane to navigate, jump, duck, sprint, and then a grab button. This is basically used for nearly any interaction, whether it's climbing up a ledge, pushing a door, picking up an object, dragging that object. 6 will also be present for a good portion of the experience, but she's completely controlled by the game itself. You can call her with a press of the X button should you need assistance. But yeah, I will say here, AI controlled friends, they're always a funny thing with a risk involved, but this absolutely worked just fine, and 6 was always there when needed. Little Nightmares 2 just captures this great balance of exploration and horror. Yes, it absolutely has that horror vibe throughout, but it makes a wise decision, like the first game, by leaning more into atmosphere than necessarily jump scares. I'm not personally good with jump scares, honestly, but the tension here just felt overall a lot more rewarding. With simple puzzles as well, the pace of this one is brisk, and I wrapped the entire experience, I'd say, in around 3.5 to 4 hours. I was hoping for something a little longer than the original game, but this is that same almost bite-sized adventure. That said, a lot of it will stick with you as it moves swiftly from one great set piece to the next. I always looked forward to, that next stealth section, for example, and it will be a long time till these moments fade from your memory. Now, I do have a few issues though. The first is a carryover from the original game. The platforming, the controls, they are fine for the most part, but every so often a section comes along where they just wanted too much from you. Like you need to lean backwards so you can jump from one object to the next. Mono just doesn't have tight enough controls, and when you fall to your death, it very much felt like a flaw in the design, not necessarily, my skill level. Also, there's a couple of chase sequences then, and these are just downright unfair. So often I would literally be off the screen, but I hadn't done quite enough, so I kind of just teleported into the mouth of my enemy. It wasn't based on me actually connecting with my foe, rather reaching some sort of invisible checkpoint that I wasn't quite reaching, and that's a shame because these were almost as good as the incredibly designed stealth sections. Finally then, the perspective can make things a little difficult to judge, like lining up a jump, or this particular moment on screen now where I had to navigate a corridor of arms. I just couldn't quite understand visually my proximity to each of my enemies, and over again I kept on facing death. That was very much the case with some sections in the first game too though. Outside of that though, like, there's honestly not too much else to it. A few minor combat moments, I definitely wouldn't come here for them, they're kind of a pain in the ass. And then 15 hats to collect that do little more than change up the visual. It's a sequel that very much builds upon what the original gave us, you know, it has some like minor fine tuning, and it attempts a couple of new things, some work and a few miss. But I do like the ambition to go bigger, and overall I really enjoyed my time in this nightmarish world. So graphically it's the same dark and creepy world that we found in the original, but expanded upon. If Little Nightmares 2 delivers in one area, it's just variety as we go from open fields to a ship to marsh-like lands to schools and so on. There's always something new to see and a whole host of just creepy enemies to avoid. It's a game without words, but the team here with the animation, they've just absolutely captured that sense of the horrific and sadistic from children that basically play by smashing each other to pieces to a variety of larger than life characters. What I like the most though, it's not even what's happening in the foreground, but everything you will witness happening in the background, that attention to detail from the movement of objects to just a depth that few games can deliver. It feels very much alive. It's never scared then even to put things in your line of sight, obscuring your view, and these are often the very best moments. Finally, the lighting as well, another winner, as it's often minimal on screen in the darkest of moments, but it's just absolutely stunning to witness. Now aside then from the very occasional glitchy animation that was no more than a few seconds, typically, you know, I'd clip into the environment, I was overall impressed. So audio to wrap things up before we hit the final verdict, and this is a voiceless game. As I said, it tells its story with imagery and animation, handles that perfectly. That said though, they didn't forget the importance of sound, and this is where, for me, they really elevate the entire tone of this adventure of sorts. There's just always a sense of dread, there's always ominous tones, but you'll always have just that kind of feeling, that sense there's something creepy or menacing just out of sight. That's where this one captures the excitement though that few puzzle games can, and then it's all topped off with more realistic sounds and simple movement that just still makes it feel very grounded. So overall, Little Nightmares 2 is another bite-sized adventure that may put people off when you weigh up the price point and roughly 4 hours that's the experience that it took me to beat it. It's not the cheapest of games for what you are getting. It is though a very fun ride. I'm just not sure I really have the desire now to go back for a revisit anytime soon. It's just kind of extremely linear in its overall design. That said though, the 4 hours you do get, few experiences can match, as it brings together terror to the puzzle platform genre, and few games can really beat that outside of maybe the likes of, I think, the original game, Limbo and Inside. That's a hell of a roster of games though right there to have your name held next to. Yes, it has some issues. The controls, I think they tried just a little bit too much, and they ain't quite where they need to be in their responsiveness to deliver. Then the occasional visual glitch and even some moments of running that definitely felt unfair. Even the frame rate, honestly, one thing I haven't mentioned, that wobbles just a tad towards the end. Even then though, I still absolutely loved it. I didn't get stuck long enough that it became particularly frustrating. And this world is just an absolute pleasure to explore. The mystery to the tower, it just had me locked in from beginning to end. Today I'm giving Little Nightmares 2 a great 8 out of 10. A few hiccups in this journey, just can't let down what is generally a great sequel to a well-loved game, and if you did enjoy the first, this is, in my opinion, a must-play. Will you be adding this one to the library though, or is this a pass for the time being? How do you feel about price in relation to runtime? I'm okay with it, honestly, personally. Some of my favourite games are short ones. It's really, for me, got to be quality first. If it's high quality, that few hours is absolutely worth it. With that then, a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. If you do want to check that out for yourself, I have linked it in the video description down below. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.